Hello and welcome back to the Football Heritage podcast. I'm your host, Rory Bryce, and today I'm joined by the founder of the FENIX Trophy, Leonardo Aleotti. How's it going, mate? It's a pleasure to finally have you on the show.
Hi, Rory. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. There's a glorious sun here in Milano, so the day couldn't be better.
I completely agree. We're getting a bit of a late summer here in Scotland, to be honest. It's been 27 degrees just about all week. Maybe that's a bit of an exaggeration, but it's been good weather for the most part. But no, as I said, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. This is an episode I've been really excited to do for quite some time because we're going to be talking about one of the most intriguing and best European competitions that's currently in existence. We're going to be talking about the FENIX Trophy, which I understand is a competition for community and fan-owned clubs around Europe. Of course, you're going to tell me different and a little bit more in depth as to what it is. But before we get stuck into things, why don't you tell myself and our listeners a little bit about yourself first and the work that you do?
Well, that's always a very tough question to answer when I get asked in social occasions. So I will try to give a short answer for the purposes of this interview. I love football, and I was lucky enough to have a father who does as well, and who back in 2000 founded a club in Milano called Brera FC, coming from the neighborhood of art and fashion in Milano, very central place, very nice, very fancy. He founded this club. It was a big sensation at the time. I was 5 at the time, so that I was not involved in the creation. But as time went, I started getting more involved in the management. At some time, it was when I was 17, 18, I started being officially registered with the club. I never had any, football ambitions because I was just not good at it. So I felt like I should know my limits. And my father as well, he was never a footballer per se. So he told me, if there's something I can do, I cannot teach you how to be a footballer, but I can teach you how to be a football manager. So that's what he did. I mean, back in 2012, I started, following the team week in, week out, from the lower ranks high up to being club manager of the whole thing. So that's what I've been doing for the past over 10 years, which recently became sort of more serious in a way because we were, not that it was unserious before, we were actually very committed to our purposes and to our existence in non-league football in Italy. But back in 2022, between 2022 and 2023, from an interest of a group of investors from the US, we got listed in New York on the Nasdaq Stock Exchange market. Of course, not the club per se, but let's say a financial holding that bears the name, the brand, the legacy, and everything of the club, which threw me into becoming a professional football manager in a way. I don't feel professional at all, to be fair, but that's now I'm mingling with the professional football more. So, but my heart still belongs to non-professional football. So I've been directing and organizing the FENIX Trophy for the past 4 years. To be fair, the idea was my father's. Perhaps it was a conversation we had. I'm skipping into a further explanation, but it was a conversation we had when the second wave of the pandemic hit. So it was more of his idea. But since I was more proficient at English, which doesn't seem to be the case now that you're listening to me, but imagine my father. I kind of took the lead of the meetings of organizing, coordinating the clubs around Europe, which brought me to be, the frogman of the FENIX Trophy. So that's where I'm at, struggling between professional football and non-professional football. But I'm having fun, so that's the most important thing.
Definitely. No, that's the main thing, that you are having fun with it and that you're enjoying it as well. It's quite a nice story as well, how you and your father have always had this connection to football and you've shared it together. He's passed it on to you and, presumably you're going to do the same thing as well. It's born these really, really beautiful things. The club that you've been involved with managing to being then put on the Nasdaq, and now the FENIX Trophy being founded as well, which is a really, really brilliant initiative. And I remember when I first came across it, I think it must have been in 2021, 2022. I think someone wrote about it or someone put something out on, it would have been Twitter at that point. I read it and I thought, oh no, this sounds absolutely brilliant. And it's with clubs like Lewes FC, FC United in Manchester in the UK, Venus Bucharesti in Romania, and you've had a number of other clubs now come on board to what is essentially European football, but for community-centric and fan-owned clubs, which I think is absolutely magnificent. So I'm maybe jumping the gun a little bit here, and we'll come on to talk about the community aspects of it in a little while. But can you tell me, first of all, in depth, Leonardo, what is the FENIX Trophy?
Well, the FENIX Trophy is the first competition, the first European competition for non-professional clubs in Europe, because you have definitely some tournaments that span from it's usually more grassroots football, like youth football, and they always take place only one place, and they can have up to 50 different nationalities joining the tournament, but it's
Sure.
always in one single location. You have the UEFA Regions Cup, which is also, as the name says, region. So it's not really, it's not at all club based. It's more sort of a regional selection. So as weird as it can look, nobody ever thought about doing this for doing what is on for. It has been on for 60 years, like the Champions League and everything. Nobody has thought about doing it for the non-professional clubs. And well, we did, partially because we did have a non-professional club as well. So, so we kind of had an interest in that. But I guess you mentioned the community value and the fan ownership and everything. I think, okay, fan ownership has been one of the most relevant in terms of numbers, experiences that we have welcomed among our ranks during in these 4 years. But it's not the only one. The key, I think, it's really the community. The fact is, this all originated because there was no football action because of the COVID, and I was talking to my father throughout. Little, step back throughout these 20 years of existence, because it was back in 2020 that we had this idea of the FENIX Trophy. My father first, and then I was also helping him. Always had a different vibe compared to the rest of non-professional football. We always the club always did some special initiatives, a lot of social impactful projects. Sometimes just experiments. We had from the first time back in 2008. We had it was not a fan ownership, but it was sort of a fund management, because we had a list of registered funds that could dictate basically the coach's choice on the weekend. So there was I think it was then popularized by a team in France.
Okay.
But yeah, we tried it out like 16 years ago or something. So we've always been, oh, that's a big one, but sort of trailblazing this type of this type of initiatives in football, because we always seen football as a tool to do more than just sports, and especially being in non-professional football. Now we had the first season, we were in the highest non-professional league in Italy, so we were like step below professional football. We could have won and gotten into a completely different story. We got relegated, unfortunately, so we stopped looking up, and more we were trying to sort out what to do once we were down. So we tried to make our experience in professional football as enjoyable and relevant, let's say, from the public opinion as possible. And we thought that's, although of course everybody wants to win, nobody starts the season to say, okay, I'm gonna lose my 20 games, but if I win enough, I stay up. But the thing is, the only meaningful aspect in the club shouldn't be the results on the pitch. In non-professional football. In professional football, you are fighting with the best. That's a very meritocratic environment. It's all very connected. Also, the financial results are very connected to the sport result, the results on the pitch. So it makes sense that you're
Sure.
just trying to do as best as you can. And that's your primary focus. In
Yeah.
non-professional football, you have so much ahead of you, on top of you, that even if you win the league and you are in the fifth division, what does it mean? You still have fourth division above you. Um, so you need to. Our conviction was, and our ideas were to try and make the best of our non-professional experience in terms of creating awareness and more generally speaking, a community, which in our case, unfortunately, has never been a community of hardcore fans.
Mm.
But we've been very well known. We had, kids requests from Georgia, Israel, like pretty far away places. So they came
Mm.
across our story, which is very important, which is also not to be taken for given when it comes to non-professional football, because the information you can have on non-professional football are unlimited. So we popped up because we were interesting and active and socially active by all meaning. So yeah, out of this conviction that non-professional football should have a bigger value than just the football side, we decided to create this European tournament that was featuring clubs around Europe that were like-minded, not the same experience, because we don't have the same
Mm.
experience of FC United of Manchester, or we don't have the same experience of the Prague Raptors, or maybe closer to the Prague Raptors, mainly, but um, the, in these past 4 years, we had around 30 different clubs joining the competition in different moments. And
Mm.
yeah, we felt some kinship in terms of experience to some of them, but some others were completely different from our identity.
Mm.
But we were all, put together by the fact that we were trying to create a different, some sort of added value to the football experience in doing something in creating a community. So that means the fan ownership, for instance, creates a very strong bond with the local territory, because it really gives power to the people who are there to support the club in the
Mhm.
first place, to make decisions and stuff. The Prague Raptors also are an experience of a multicultural environment, which creates sort of a safe space for the foreigners who first arrive to Czech Republic and they don't really know the place. And football is a great aggregator. Is a universal language, so that helps a lot to facilitate inclusion and generally speaking, well-being in the individuals. We had clubs with profound, I can say, social media knowledge, like communication knowledge
Sure.
and
Mm.
expertise. We had clubs with artistic and fashion connections, like the club in Oslo. So all of these, the whole point of the tournament was to display a variety of models. We didn't want to stick. Of course, the most important experience we had, being FC United of Manchester, all the attention was driven by the fan ownership. But
Mm.
as much as I love that kind of also governance model and everything, we had very different type of experiences, and that was per se the purpose of the tournament, to show a variety of best practices within non-professional football, because the whole point was to create with this tournament a reference model for non-professional football at the European level. So this works both ways, uh,
Mm.
both in the selection of the clubs, like see what these clubs are doing is positive. They are impacting the community. Of course, they can win, they can lose. That happens. And I'm not passing any judgment on the technical project, but but certainly what they're doing for the community they created around themselves is significant. So you can to achieve that kind of impact, you can
Mm.
pick your fighter. You can choose a,
Yeah. Yeah.
a, a variety of ways to do that. You don't have to stick only if you have fans involved in the governance or anything. And at the same time, the tournament per se, with the structure, with the, how can I say, the ethos of the tournament, aims to create a different type of awareness of what non-professional football is and how non-professional football should be lived, how it should be experienced. Because it's the games are, I'm not saying they're the best in non-professional football, because of course we don't display only the top non-professional football leagues. So of course there will be somebody that plays better than us. But that's what happens in non-professional football. You always have somebody, for instance, professional football, that plays better than you. So why would you just stick, as I said, stick your value to only the football level? So at the same time, the atmosphere of the tournament goes beyond those 90 minutes. The 90 minutes are played with the most commitment as possible, and a winner emerges, and that's okay. That's how it goes in football. But the most important thing is that the home side really embraces the away side. It's an exchange, a cultural exchange through football. So that's the most relevant feature of the tournament and of what we think should be the atmosphere in any non-professional football game, which, out of my experience, has never been the case when I was playing domestically with my neighbors, for instance. There's always been a different tension. There's always been a different approach to the game, to the post game. For instance, we've always, even win or lose. Unfortunately, we lost last Sunday. For instance, 2 days ago we had a cup game. Our first game back in Italy, because we stopped for a season. Now we're back, and we lost, but nevertheless we stopped after the game. We stayed there, have a few beers, chips, and whatnot. So the most important thing is to be able to digest wins or losses and make the best of your experience anyway.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you there. It's just on that last point you made there. It's the football that we consume on a weekly basis is more often than not very tribal. Not always, I know there's different cases where it's not, and there are certain circumstances where it's not, but for the most part, it can be very tribal. You're either playing for points, you're playing for the cup, and the objective is to beat the opposition. And depending on what level you're at, sometimes the fans that you're with aren't going to be obviously too happy with that. There's going to be certain animosity and certain emotions attached to it as well. Whereas this is much more a celebration of different cultures, of football clubs being run differently and offering a bit of an alternative as well to other football that's being played elsewhere, which I think is quite important. But just to come back to some of the earlier points that you made as well, I quite like how you've said that it's not so much community or fan-owned centric, but it's more, kind of promoting and celebrating non-professional football. Because again, you don't want to exclude other clubs who don't come under that community or fan-owned kind of banner, if you like. So that's quite important. Although often they do kind of come hand in hand. So I understand that's why the majority of the clubs involved are community-centric or fan-owned. But some of the things that you've just said as well, there, you're creating community, you're initiating networking with other people, you're adding value, providing safe spaces, initiating these different people to be able to come together and celebrate their clubs. It's brilliant. It's a really, really fantastic tournament. And I think you'd struggle to find any other competition across the world that actually offers that for different people as well. And we'll come on to talk about them later, but obviously, we hope Caledonian Braves are going to be playing in it this year, who are based in Motherwell. What other opportunity are they going to get to play a team from Romania? Do you know what I mean? It's never going to happen. And it's just, it's a brilliant celebration. One thing that I did want to ask, because obviously, as you mentioned earlier on as well, football is something that can be used to drive social change, and it can be something that is a vehicle for delivering improvement within communities. Kind of two different ends of the spectrum, but a group local to me called Kick Mental Health, who offer kickabouts, training sessions, and 11-a-side games for people within the community who are struggling with isolation and mental health issues. They can go there 3 days a week in different places and play with them. And then, the peace projects, such as countries that were in the former Yugoslavia, which are using football to teach people that, these other people aren't necessarily bad. That football is used across the world for different things to improve people's lives and help them. And obviously that's something that you're trying to do as well. I just wondered if there was an inspiration behind you setting up this trophy, or if that was the primary purpose for it, or if it's an idea that's more grown arms and legs and you've taken it to a different level.
I think, maybe when we first imagined this tournament, we were not maybe that aware of the social aspect of it. But looking back at our history, with that, and I'm talking about my team Brera in Milano, we've always had, as I said, this type of attitude of using football as a social medicine. So with that, my father, over 20 years ago in 2003, he started a football club in jail, which was a huge project at the time, because we was the first time he had to put together the Italian FA and the Ministry of Justice to create the regulations for that, because of course there are some documents that the Italian Federation requires that you don't have as an inmate. So they had to they had to tweak some details and everything, but they were able to create this team that was participating in the official pyramid. So was not. There has been project of some pick up football with the inmates, something like very occasional. This was for the first time a football team fully made by inmate that was playing in prison. Of course, every time at home they didn't have any away day, but they were playing there and against people that had no allegiance to jail. Like there could be students, workers who were playing their ninth division football, non-league football, and they would come in Sunday in, Sunday out to play football against these inmates, people that they'd never known in their life, and then they would probably be scared of if they were in any other circumstance. But the great thing about football is that it contains so many additional meanings, even without exploiting them or stressing them too much. Like the fact that, for instance, you can be, once you are on the same pitch, you are equal to your opponent, is a great metaphor to defeat racism, for instance, or discrimination. Because you don't have to say, okay, you don't have to force, the whole theoretical, let's say, pretenses of racism, of discrimination, is to think that you're somebody else, some other group, some minority or whatever, they are inferior beings compared to you in a way. You're not on the same level. And any day of the week, you wouldn't exchange your life for theirs. So that's because you see them as inferior. So with football, that doesn't happen because you are forcefully being on the same pitch. You are playing when the game starts. You are literally even. So that's already a simple example of how football can, how do you say, tear down barriers and walls between people. So, for instance, in 2015, I think it was 2016 maybe, we were managing this Romani people football team for the CONIFA, which is an association, a sort of a shadow FIFA, association for non-recognized federations. We were running the Roman football team. We were selected to go to the World Cup in Abkhazia, but unfortunately we couldn't get the visas to go to Russia. I'm not going to get into details. But what happened is we had a friendly game against Padania, which is traditionally the football expression of a right-wing party in Italy, the Lega Nord, which was displaying some sort of paradox, because on one side you had these fierce nationalistic but chauvinistic also people that were not even fighting for the integrity of Italian blood, let's say, but from the only northern Italian blood. So it was very, very with the secessionist movement and everything. So it was very bizarre to see them playing a group of a group of players of Roma ethnicity, because there was not a kind of social group they were really getting along with. So
that's being polite.
that's the beauty of football. It brings together people that come from completely different extractions and contexts and everything, and creates an environment that embraces all. So I think that's beautiful, and I think that's out of our experience in those 20 years, we created this awareness within ourselves that we had to do this, because we've always used football as a tool to do this, actually. So that was pretty natural that once we we started the FENIX Trophy, although the first inquiries we were making to the clubs were not, okay, what has been your most recent social project? But we've always found clubs that, had that kind of awareness, that kind of vibe. So it was pretty natural that the tournament per se generated this atmosphere. Also because at the end of the day, it's easy to say, okay, no, you have people traveling, so it's all, a glorified friendly game.
Yeah.
But it's not. The thing is not. It's not that simple. If you have people traveling, if I go to, no, me, I don't even care about the results. But let's say if anybody else travels to another country to play football, they want to win. So it's not that easy to be able. You need really smart people, which luckily I found, to be able to put together the desire for a winning game, for the 3 points, with a positive attitude, a graceful behavior when it comes to a defeat, a desire to actually also have a humanly meaningful experience. So to actually meet your opponent after the game. The most important moment in the tournament is by far the post game dinner when the two teams come together and they have fun. I've seen a players of mine from Egypt, 19 years old, who was talking for hours with a 35 years old Serbian. So these people would have never met each other in any other parallel universe, to say it as, with any other multiverse. So but they did, and they had a great time. So that was as easy as it comes. So I think that's the beauty of football. I think we were also able to find people who would understand this and behave accordingly, which is not as given as it may seem.
Yeah, it's not as easy as we'd like to think it is to do, and obviously, you can probably tell that you and I and a number of other people associated with football clubs who have the same kind of mindset, work within specific circles. So it's very easy for us to believe that everyone thinks the same, whereas it's not, and I think breaking through that kind of mindset is important as well, to be able to create these kinds of initiatives that actually bring people together. And as you've said there, it creates beautiful moments. But I think what was also important is that, you said it's important. It's not just a glorified friendly. You have to be competitive, and you need to come into this wanting to win and be competitive. But you also have to have the mindset of, we're going to meet the team after it. We want to do this because we want to bring people together. We want to give our fans a taste of European football and have them meet some supporters from other countries as well. And I think that's really important in and of itself as well, because it does kind of bring a different element to it that isn't present in a lot of footballing nations, which is, camaraderie. We're here for the same reason, but also we're coming over not just to show you our football team, but to show you as fans what we're about and what we can bring to the table in terms of friendship. So, I think that's a really fantastic part of it as well. And, you mentioned a couple of things there, like the mindset aspect of it. And I suppose that leads me quite nicely onto my next question. What are the criteria for clubs to take part in the FENIX Trophy?
This is also very tough to answer. Because I haven't been able to sort of objectify the criteria to say, okay, you have to meet these levels. You have to have level of social impact from 6 to 10. So I unfortunately there is no scale for that. I think that already any club that hears about this and finds it interesting, on top of the football dimension, on top of saying just I want to have a European day out, but to understand the pretenses of this tournament, I think that's already a good step forward. That said, I always have meeting with the clubs. I see the involvement they generate on the local communities. I've often traveled to see the clubs in action on their domestic leagues. I see their communication. I see if they've had any special project, actually, because if the only selling point is we won the league 3 times in a row, that's an amazing achievement and congratulations. But it's not necessarily that it doesn't, unless it's paired with some other type of sensitiveness and awareness, it's not necessarily enough to be, let's say, a Phoenix Club. But
Yeah,
because if you think, I think that any football experience is valuable. So that's why it's pretty hard to answer this question, because who am I to judge on other people's experiences? Everyone, literally everyone, also like on a personal level, has a story. So, and
yeah,
if there is Morgan Freeman narrating it, it's gonna be interesting. So it really always depends on how you tell your story, which is why, for instance, communication is important. That's why I check social medias out and to see the social media accounts out and to see what they do to pass the message through and showcase the story. At the same time, as I was saying, if you just value yourself on the football results, that means that by opposition, if you have a couple of blank years where you avoid relegation, but it's not those kind of leagues where you really want to do the league again because you've been losing a lot. You maybe avoided relegation at the last game, but you didn't have a good time on the pitch per se. That means
yeah,
that you are worthless because by like following the same criteria, if you were good because you were winning, should you be bad because you're losing? I don't think so. I think clubs should aspire to have a different system in also considering themselves in a self-conception.
mm,
So it's important to find clubs that have then people are very important. Whenever I meet with people, I try to understand what kind of uh, people they are in terms of because they have to quite literally care about their opponents when they come on the away day. So you need to have
sure,
people that are generous, available, friendly, happy to do what they are doing. Also because
hmm,
nobody is forcing them to do it, so they really
yeah,
should embrace this thing. So there is a number of reasons. There is a number of aspects based on which we select the clubs. Also, there are some practical things like where are you based? Unfortunately, that's not something you can change beforehand, but it's easier if you're based in a bigger city with better transportation because the logistics are also important when it comes to the game,
of course,
to organizing the fiction, the schedule, and everything. So yeah, it's very very complicated. I probably have passed on some wonderful experiences without knowing. It's always hard for me, well, because I'm from Italy. I know what I can know from afar, so that's why I always try to go and check the situations out by myself on site, let's say. But all in all, it's complicated. You need to. It's sort of a love at first sight type of thing. Like if I get a
yeah,
really good first impression, uh, and I'm more often than not right rather than wrong. I don't want to flatter myself, but often that's the case. um, so then it's probably a good sign. But yeah, it really depends from case to case. It's hard to pick some definite criteria, which makes my life and job much harder because if it
yeah,
was like some score that you have to have, and you need to have 65 and you did 60. Okay, then it's pretty clear that you don't belong here. But I don't. I should start working out a table to keep the score and make it easier for everyone to understand what they need to do. Also because in a way, and I'm not that kidding right now,
hmm,
because I think that going forward and looking at the bigger picture and the far away future, I think that this should become some sort of model for non-professional football. So that
yeah,
should mean that what is now an invitational tournament should create some objective criteria that would be possibly achievable by anyone. Also, somebody that now, let's say, on a total of 60 would score 20. But if they want to do this, if they want to change the not their identity, but to change their experience to try and fit the criteria, they potentially
Yeah.
could. So it's important to have a rationalized table, because in the future I would like, for instance, for every football association to express their candidate based on a measure that they made in the previous year of the social impact they created. For instance, I'm just making this up as I go, but it could be a thing, like, so that it could actually become a competition within the competition. Okay, you have your own competition, your football, and however it goes, it's okay. It's just, you win, you lose, you get relegated, you get promoted. It's okay. That doesn't affect, let's say, the European performance, which is the opposite
Yeah.
of what happens in professional football. So that's also kind of interesting. But what you do on top of football, like, sort of earns you the point to get qualified for European football. It's like that university credit score that you need to have with the extracurricular activities. So I think some system like that is something we should, we should be looking at for the future.
Yeah, well, I think you're absolutely right, though. I think that initiatives like these are becoming more and more commonplace, not just within football and really like local community football clubs, but just in different towns and villages and stuff like that as well. But there's certainly been a shift towards more kind of collective community activity, I think is probably the right way to put it, where people are maybe not so much open, but there's a lot more movement towards, kind of helping each other out and working with each other and doing things because they're enjoyable and because they bring a bit more added value to your life, basically, and they really improve that experience. And I think that with the FENIX Trophy doing that, I think a lot of people will take note, and I think a lot of people will look to adopt the model as well, and it would be the hope that kind of continues. The only thing that I can think that's even a kind of moderate comparison, to be honest, is that in Scotland you have all of the kind of county trophies, if you like, that have been around for years, and a lot of them have just become pre-season trophies. But for a lot of the clubs in our lowest divisions, they're actually their most attended games of the season because they're such historic cups, but it gets everyone out and everyone talks about them because they've loved following this trophy for so long. So, hopefully the FENIX Trophy can do something like that as well. But it's all about adding that value and bringing something that is, just kind of enriches people's football and experiences for the club that they follow as well. What's been your favourite result or your favourite moment from the FENIX Trophy right now during your time organising it?
Yeah, all of them. No, it's really hard because there are different sides to it. There was when I was, as a owner of the team, as when I was away, when I was home, as chairman of the FENIX Trophy, when I was traveling the past year, and I've seen so many games. I've seen like around 20 games. Each of them was unique. It was very important for me to see all these destinations first-handedly, and I had a great time. Then there was also, for instance, we had 3 finals events, Final 8 and then 2 Final 4, so which was also a very nice moment. I can tell you my least favorite moment, which will come as a big surprise. My least favorite moment was actually the finals in San Siro. Not because it wasn't great, it was amazing, and I think it's something that I will always cherish forever. The fact that I was able to bring the FENIX Trophy, which is, it's important to say, a UEFA approved tournament. So it's not just an event that we organize without any permission. It's not the European Super League, but I was able to bring it to the San Siro, which was like a month earlier. The location where 2 Champions League semifinals were played, because it was when Inter Milan and AC Milan played together, and also he hosted 7 Champions League finals all in all, and also I think Europa League. There has been a lot of European football history passing through San Siro, and I'm forever grateful that I was able to have it as a step of the journey of the FENIX Trophy as well. However, let's say the whole experience personally wasn't that enjoyable in terms of organization and dealing with what is clearly a professional football environment, which is something that the listeners from Manchester, they would certainly, agree with me. It was a completely different experience from, for instance, the day before when we played the semifinals in the Arena Civica, which is our stadium, which is an environment that is used to non-professional football. It's used to this kind
Yeah,
of
yeah,
very extrovert but harmless behavior from the fans.
got you.
In the San Siro, they were like, seemed like they were they were dealing with terrorists. So I didn't have that much fun in the San Siro, but everything else was amazing. I mean, the away days we had in Warsaw, in Manchester, in Belgrade, in Copenhagen, they were all amazing. They were all amazing. All great sets of fans, all great venues, all great nights afterwards. Although
Totally.
I remember half of it, but I'm pretty sure there were great nights. Same was okay. Of course, the home games were a bit more tiring and exhausting for me personally because I had to sort it out and um, manage the whole thing. But we had a great time both with our Polish friends, with our Serbian friends, with when the probably the most the biggest event we had was when FC United of Manchester came over. No, maybe it was April 2022. We had 700 fans, 400 of them coming from the UK. It was an amazing show. It was also nice on the pitch. We lost, but it was a good game, and I know it was honestly amazing. Then all the games I've been to as a chairman, I've been to a lot of them. I loved every one of them. I think it's hard to make a ranking of which one I like the most. I Let's say I had a very good time with our friends in Wales, which actually means that both the game in Wales against okay, let's say my favorite couple of games, like games I've seen both home and away between the two teams, was Lentwit Major versus Skjold in Lentwit Major,
Nice. That's a good one.
which was my first Welsh experience, and I will always cherish it. And the one in Copenhagen was really good. Was in April. Was really good weather. Scott
Hmm.
versus Olympic Major. We had a great time in the after the game. We went partying. It was amazing. We had a really good time. But that's something we did with everyone. I remember going to Oslo with New West's players. I remember the night in Prague with the guys from the Ginla, the Finnish team. I remember the game in Finland, the night in Helsinki, both
Yeah.
with the Romanians and the Prague Raptors. So I've done a lot of PR, so so I had my fair share of nights. My body is definitely suffering at this moment, but I had great time anywhere. So it's very hard for me to pick my favorite game of all time.
Yeah, it's all been an experience, and to be fair, you've been entitled to have more than your fair share of nights out. But I can imagine with the organisation plus the parties that went on after it, you've probably knocked more than a few years off your lifespan as well. But
Unfortunately,
it's worth it. It's worth it at the end of the day, isn't it?
it was worth it.
Yeah, I quite like that anecdote that you made about the San Siro, because it's like, well, obviously it's a massive moment and it must have been a huge moment for you personally, but at the same time, you it kind of dawned on you, why am I bringing this non-professional tournament into a professional setting? Like, it's trying to fit a square peg into a round hole sort of thing, isn't it? And I can imagine it must have felt, a bit different and a bit strange. So I suppose a lot of it is about keeping the spirit of it and keeping the aesthetic of it and the feeling of it as non-professional and kind of informal as possible. And as you said, there were other kind of things you didn't like about the organisation of it and things like that as well. So I just wondered, with that in mind, what are your plans for the future of the tournament? Are you going to plan to kind of keep it as non-professional as possible, or are you going to look to grow it a little bit more so that you can adapt maybe certain professional elements into it, such as taking it to larger stadiums like the San Siro? Or do you just kind of want to keep everything in-house?
It's in this very moment, you catch me at the time when I'm really. Now we are 11 days. Ooh, 11 days. In 11 days, we're going to have our first game of the season, which is really nothing.
Nice.
And like nothing in terms of how much is missing. So yeah, it's fair to say that I'm kind of focusing on the present right now and on the future.
Sure. No, that's totally fair.
So yeah, generally speaking, I hope to be able to keep this tournament going in numbers and everything. I think there is a lot of potential when it comes, because we are talking now. I feel like it was a big effort to get 16 clubs all together, and it was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But there are thousands of other clubs around Europe. So I guess before making any evaluation on the future, I think we should see how this event, jokes aside, how this edition turns out to be, because we are working out on a new format. So I want to see how this works out. If
Sure.
those games are doable. There are a lot of things that are new in this season, a lot of clubs that are new. So we need to see how they adjust, how they adapt to the new environment, to the new circumstances, so that we are able to plan for the future based on, for instance, who's behaved well this season, so who can be confirmed for the next season. So we see what kind of expansion we have to do. I have consistently found new clubs every season, which was not easy at all, because I had a lot of turnover on some years, so that I really had to dig deep to find
Yeah.
new clubs. So yeah, I think in terms of, like, personally, I think in terms of organization, I want to start, implementing some little changes, some little details that makes the whole thing more aesthetically professional, at least. I
Yeah.
was lucky enough to be at the UEFA Youth League now last week, and in Lyon, and I loved it. Not just because I was in the
Can
UEFA
imagine.
building, which was exciting per se, but also because I think that out of every European competition, probably Youth League is the one that, okay, no, not anagraphically, but in terms of organization, in terms of viewership, in terms of self-perception, everything is the most similar to the FENIX Trophy, because you have the big
Yeah.
clubs, but you also have very small clubs that get from the domestic part, such as Brera in North Macedonia. So the arrangement, of course, the UEFA has the same expectations for Barcelona or Brera Stromica, but
Yeah.
they are more flexible when it comes to dealing with issues that can happen also in the FENIX Trophy. And I've seen a lot of I was dealing with our opponents, which happened to be FK Sarajevo from Bosnia. We're going to play them in a week from now, actually, and we were making the arrangement for the game and everything. So out also of my FENIX Trophy experience, I was like, okay, let's do reciprocity, which is something UEFA really encourages on the games. Like, we book for you and pay for the night in night or nights in Stromica in Macedonia, and you do the same in Bosnia, because that's cheaper for the both of us. So that's a very FENIX Trophy feature. That's the same thing that happens in the FENIX Trophy. So I remember there was one moment when they were doing this sort of a workshop where they were telling us what to do for the new ones, such as myself, for the tournament and everything. They said, we are sending you the banners with used to be respect, now it's football. There is some sort of a slogan from UEFA, from the Youth League. It's like a campaign, and they said it's so important. We take the picture, take each team's picture, but then it's so important you come together and you take this picture all together with this banner, because it's a good publicity for the UEFA, for the social aspect of football. The fact that not only, this is a display of the best youngsters in Europe, because at the end of the day you have the top academies playing together on a continental stage, but it's also a moment for smaller entities to come together and experience some international football, which is exactly the same as the FENIX Trophy, exactly the same. So as a matter of fact, even in the first season, 3 years ago, we have pictures of clubs in Valencia and Rome taking pictures together with this banner saying "Make friends, not millionaires." So it was we already did that. I was finding myself in the position to say, I did the same for the FENIX Trophy. So I want to find and standardize some aspects coming out of this experience. Because, for instance, you have the big clubs, but even the big clubs don't have big attendances because it's under 19 football. Like, okay, you're gonna be watching it, but it's probably not going to be in the San Siro. It's going to be in the training center. So the attendance is not the same. We might have had bigger attendances in the FENIX Trophy rather than in some youth league games. So there are a lot of aspects I want to pick up on I want to pick on from the youth league experience, and I think this will make the competition as a whole, nicer and better in terms of organizational standards. Small details, but at the end of the day, it's a detail that makes a difference.
Yeah, that's it. It's small steps at the moment, and at the end of the day, the trophy's only been going for 3 or 4 years now, so it's not been very long at all. And a lot of it, I can imagine, is still finding your feet within this. But I mean, you must be chuffed with how popular it's been so far, all things considered. I mean, at the end of the day, you need to remember that you have essentially organised a European-wide tournament for clubs which don't have the resources to travel. And it's been a success and been attended and contested every year since you founded it,
Yeah, no, it's amazing. 4 years ago, almost 4 years ago, I wasn't expecting to be here today and talking about it still. So something worked out along the way because there are certainly a lot of aspects to still change. As I said, from the little organizational details to a bigger. I don't want to say commercial because it feels like we are sellouts, but. But yeah, let's say commercial aspect in terms of promoting the tournament on different surfaces. Everything that happened so far was completely organic, and it's something that I'm happy of and I'm proud of. The fact that people like you reached out to me because of the tournament. People of very different countries. There is a group of Brazilians, amateur speakers that asked me for permission to replay the games of the FENIX Trophy with the Portuguese commentary. So these people probably wake up actually pretty early because of the different time zone to live stream the games of the competition I created. So it certainly made an impact around the world, and I'm really happy for that.
You should be. Yeah, I really look forward to going to the Cali Braves game when that gets arranged and when that takes place. I think it's going to be fantastic, and it's going to be my first experience of this type of competition and this type of initiative. So yeah, no, it's fantastic, and you can tell that a lot of other people enjoy it as well. This has been a really, really great chat, Leonardo, so thank you very much for joining me today. Is there anything else that you want to add just before we finish up?
No, actually, no. No, because otherwise I start rambling on, and that's not good. No, just as a call to action to the listeners to keep following the tournament because the attention is what makes it even more relevant. I mean, there are a lot of, as I said, a good story a story is good only when it's told well. So yeah. The FENIX Trophy is a great experience per se. But of course, if we were not able to tell it to people, and if people were not invested and involved in it, it would probably stay something nice and niche. But the thing is, we want this awareness of the tournament to keep raising, to keep growing, and this comes out of the attention and the positive vibes in a way that can come out of the football lovers that have appreciated this competition. I will also start thinking of prizes for the most loyal fans of the tournament. This is something I want to do in the future.
Yeah, you need to get a Golden Boot award for the top scorer of the tournament as well, and start putting all those in place. Make sure that we start banging them in. So, have you kind of got one already?
No, we did some sort of. The point is, often they get tied. We had the first edition. Sure. We had the two players one from FC United of Manchester, the other one from the Prague Raptors tied on on the same amount of goals, so that's hard to define who, and nobody wants to give up on their trophy. So I had to. I told the guy from FC United of Manchester, "Come on, you just won the cup. Let the guy have his own consolation trophy." And it was no. So I had to sneak the trophy back to him, to this Raptors player, on the premises that he scored the banger, which was true, actually. The first goal he scored, which was the first goal of the tournament as a home, was a really nice goal. So I said, okay, this award is for you for best goal of the tournament. So same happened. I did the same thing. I gave this trophy to Aaron Bennett, the player from FC United of Manchester in the last edition, who scored a shitload of goals. So he probably was also the top scorer. But I gave him out of being, the MVP of the final or something like that. So you need to find the goals per se are hard to be the only criteria, because then on a limited game basis, amount of game basis, it happens that there are a lot of ties. So
yeah.
The only one I actually gifted something was the top scorer of the second edition. It was this Iranian guy from Prague Raptors. He scored like 7 goals or something, which I think he's the top scorer of the tournament as a whole so far, because he's played and scored in every edition. And I gave him a crate of beer, which was less appropriate because it was Iranian. He's Iranian, so maybe it's not within his religious principles to drink beer. So I don't know if I made a mistake there, but at least he shared it with his teammates, so it's good.
Yeah, it's all good.
So yeah, keep following us. That's my only demand.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be my only demand for our listeners to this episode as well, is please go and follow the FENIX Trophy on all the relative social media profiles. I think, as far as I'm aware, you're mostly active through X. You can follow them and Leonardo and all their work there at FENIX Trophy. Nice and easy for you. And of course, as usual, if there's anything else that you want us to cover that's related to football, history or heritage, you can reach out to us on X as well. Our DMs are always open. That's @_footyheritage. You can email us at hello@footballheritage.co.uk as well. So if there's something you want us to cover, no matter what it is, just get in touch and have a conversation with us. We'll see if it's something that we can fit into the project. But for now, Leonardo, say goodbye.
Thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure, mate. Thank you very much for coming on. It's goodbye from me as well, and we'll see you all again next week. Goodbye.